The shuttle made a terrible sound as it fell through the sky. Hana gripped the controls with both hands, but nothing worked anymore. The storm had torn through the small ship like paper. Lightning flashed outside the windows, and rain hammered against the metal hull. She could see the jungle below, coming closer and closer. Trees stretched out in every direction, covering the entire planet's surface. This was Viridian 7, one of the most dangerous worlds that humans had ever tried to study. The company called it an extreme hazard zone because of the creatures that lived here. The shuttle hit the trees, branches crashed against the windows, metal screamed, Hana's head snapped forward, then back. Everything went dark. When she opened her eyes again, smoke filled the cabin. Her head hurt badly. Blood ran down from a cut above her eye. She touched her arms and legs, checking for broken bones. Everything hurt, but nothing seemed broken. Hana pushed the door release button. Nothing happened. She pushed it again. Still nothing. The power was completely dead. She grabbed the emergency release handle and pulled hard. The door hissed and opened slowly. Hot, wet air rushed into the cabin. The smell of the jungle filled her nose. Rotting plants, strange flowers, and something else. Something that smelled like meat and danger. She climbed out carefully, her legs shaking. The shuttle had crashed in a small clearing. Trees surrounded her on all sides, their trunks thick and covered in strange moss that glowed faintly in the darkness. It was almost night. She could see the sun disappearing behind the trees, painting the sky red and purple. Hana grabbed her emergency pack from inside the shuttle. She checked what she had: a medical kit, some food bars, water purification tablets, a small knife, and a flashlight. Her communication device was smashed. The emergency beacon blinked once, then went dark. Broken. She pulled out her location device. The screen showed her position. She was more than 200 kilometers from the research base. That was a 2-week walk through the jungle. If she could even survive that long. The sun dropped below the horizon. Darkness came fast on this planet. Hana knew what that meant. The Vorathil hunted at night. The Vorathil were the apex predators of Viridian 7. 4 meters tall, 6 legs, claws that could cut through steel. The research base had lost 3 people to Vorathil attacks in the past year. The company kept that information quiet. They did not want people to know how dangerous this world really was. Hana needed shelter. Fast. She saw a rock formation about 50 meters away. In the growing darkness, it looked like there might be a cave. She grabbed her pack and ran. Her boots splashed through mud and water. Strange insects buzzed around her head. Something howled in the distance. The cave entrance was narrow, but she squeezed through. Inside, it opened into a larger space. She turned on her flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, showing stone walls covered in more of that glowing moss. Then she heard it. A small sound. Like breathing. Hana froze. She slowly moved the flashlight beam across the cave floor. 3 small creatures lay against the far wall. They looked like tiny versions of the monsters she had seen in the research files. Baby Vorathil. Cubs. Each one was about the size of a large dog. They had 6 legs, just like the adults. Their skin was covered in dark fur with strange glowing marks running along their sides. But these cubs were not healthy. Even from across the cave, Hana could see the wounds. One cub had a deep cut along its side. The wound was infected, oozing green fluid. Another cub was breathing in short, painful gasps. The third lay very still, its eyes closed. Hana's scientific mind kicked in immediately. She should leave. She should run and find shelter somewhere else. These were predator cubs. Their mother would be nearby. If the mother found her here, Hana would die. But she could not move. She stared at the dying cubs. They were just babies. Hurt and alone. She took a step forward. Then another. The cubs did not move. They were too weak to run or fight. Hana knelt beside the first cub, the one with the infected wound. Up close, she could see the injury was from some other creature's claws or teeth. The cub's eyes opened, slowly. They were large and yellow, like pools of liquid gold. The cub made a weak sound, almost like a whimper. She opened her medical kit. Her hands shook as she pulled out the antiseptic spray and bandages. This was insane. She was using her only medical supplies on alien predator cubs. But she could not stop herself. The cub flinched when she sprayed the wound, but it did not try to bite or scratch her. It just watched her, with those golden eyes. Hana cleaned away the infection as best as she could, then wrapped the wound with bandages. The cub's breathing became a little easier. She moved to the second cub. This one had broken ribs. Hana could feel them shifting under the skin when she examined it carefully. She wrapped the cub's chest tightly with bandages, trying to stabilize the injury. The third cub barely seemed alive. Its breathing was so shallow that Hana had to watch carefully to see its chest move. It was starving and dehydrated. She dripped water into its mouth slowly, drop by drop. After a few minutes, the cub swallowed weakly. Hana worked for over an hour. She used almost everything in her medical kit. When she finally sat back, all 3 cubs were sleeping. Their breathing was steady. They would live, at least for tonight. That was when she felt it. The feeling of being watched. Every hair on her body stood up. Very slowly, she turned her head toward the cave entrance. 2 yellow eyes stared at her from the darkness outside. They were high up, at least 3 meters off the ground. They reflected the glow from the moss, shining like small suns. The mother, Vorathil. Hana's heart stopped. She could not breathe. She could not move. The creature was huge. Even in the darkness, she could see its outline. Massive shoulders, a head the size of a barrel, claws that scraped against the stone as it shifted its weight. The Vorathil could kill her in seconds. One swipe of those claws would cut her in half. There was nowhere to run. The cave only had one entrance, and the creature blocked it. Hana waited to die, but the killing blow did not come. The creature just stood there, watching. Its eyes moved from Hana to the sleeping cubs, then back to Hana. Minutes passed. Hours, maybe. Hana lost track of time. She sat frozen against the cave wall, staring at those yellow eyes in the darkness. The cubs slept peacefully beside her, their small bodies finally resting after who knew how long of suffering. Eventually, exhaustion took over. Hana's eyes grew heavy. She tried to stay awake, but her body would not listen anymore. The crash, the panic, the medical work, it was all too much. Her eyes closed, her head dropped forward. She fell asleep sitting up against the cold stone wall. The 3 cubs, drawn to the warmth of the only living thing that had shown them kindness, crawled closer. They pressed against her legs and sides, seeking comfort. Their glowing markings pulsed softly in the darkness like tiny heartbeats. And outside the cave, the mother Vorathil remained. She did not enter. She did not attack. She simply watched through the night, her yellow eyes never leaving the strange alien creature that had saved her children. Hana woke to sunlight on her face. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt the weight against her legs and remembered everything. The 3 cubs were pressed against her, still sleeping. Their small bodies rose and fell with each breath. In the morning light, she could see them more clearly. Their fur was dark gray with stripes of deep blue. The glowing marks along their sides had dimmed with the sunrise but were still faintly visible. Hana looked toward the cave entrance. Empty. The mother was gone. She carefully moved her legs, trying not to wake the cubs. Her whole body ached from sleeping against the stone wall. She stood up slowly and walked to the entrance, looking out at the jungle. Something lay on the ground just outside the cave. A dead creature, about the size of a deer. Its neck was broken cleanly. Fresh blood still dripped from the wound. The mother had left food. Hana stared at the dead animal for a long time. The mother Vorathil had not killed her. Instead, the creature had brought food. Was it for the cubs? Or was it for her too? A small sound came from behind her. One of the cubs had woken up. It was the one with the wounded side, the bandages still wrapped around its body. The cub looked at Hana, then at the dead animal outside. It made a soft chirping noise. The other two cubs woke up. They moved slowly, still weak and in pain. But they were alive and alert. Hana's medical treatment had worked. She dragged the dead animal into the cave. Using her small knife, she cut away portions of meat. The cubs watched her carefully. When she offered them pieces of the meat, they ate slowly at first, then more eagerly. They were starving. Hana cut a piece for herself. She was hungry too, and she needed to keep her strength up. The meat tasted strange, but not bad. She cooked her portion over a small fire she built near the cave entrance. But the cubs ate theirs raw. While the cubs ate and rested, Hana examined her broken emergency beacon. Maybe she could fix it. She had some knowledge of electronics from her training. She opened the device carefully and looked at the circuits inside. The damage was bad, but not hopeless. One of the power cells had cracked in the crash. Some of the wiring had melted. If she could replace those parts, the beacon might work again. She spent the morning working on the beacon. The cubs watched her with curious eyes. The smallest one, the one that had been barely alive the night before, crawled closer. It sniffed at her tools, then at her hands. Hana reached out slowly and touched the top of its head. The cub went very still. Then, after a moment, it leaned into her hand. Its fur was softer than she expected. "You are a curious little thing," Hana said softly. The cub made a purring sound. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Hana worked on the beacon during the day. The cubs grew stronger. Each morning, she found fresh kills outside the cave. The mother was hunting for all of them, but she never showed herself during daylight hours. Hana started leaving offerings for the mother. Part of her food rations. Clean water in a container. She placed these gifts just outside the cave entrance and spoke out loud, even though she did not know if the creature could understand. "Thank you for the food. Your cubs are healing well. I will not hurt them." The gifts were always gone by morning. On the third day, Hana gave the cubs names. The smallest one, the curious one, she called Spark. The one with broken ribs, who was cautious and watched everything carefully, she named Shadow. The one with the infected wound, who was playful and kept trying to wrestle with his siblings despite his injuries, she called Bright. The cubs started following her everywhere. When she went to the stream nearby to get water, all three cubs limped along behind her. When she sat working on the beacon, they lay around her in a circle. At night, they slept pressed against her for warmth. Hana documented everything in her notebook: the cubs' behavior, their healing progress, their intelligence. She noticed they were much smarter than the research files suggested. They learned quickly. Spark figured out how to open the latches on her pack to get at the food bars. Shadow learned to mimic the sounds she made, almost like trying to talk. Bright brought her things: stones, leaves, dead insects, like gifts. On the fourth night, something changed. Hana was sitting at the cave entrance, watching the sunset and writing in her notebook. The cubs were playing nearby, wrestling gently with each other. Their wounds were healing fast, much faster than she expected. Then Shadow stopped playing. The cub's head turned toward the jungle. Its ears pointed forward. A low growl came from its throat. Spark and Bright stopped too. All three cubs moved close to Hana, pressing against her legs. Hana heard it then. Movement in the trees. Something large. No. Multiple large things. They emerged from the jungle one by one. 4 creatures, each about the size of a horse. They walked on 4 legs and had long snouts filled with teeth. Their skin was covered in rough scales. Hana recognized them from the research files. Riftbacks, pack hunters. The riftbacks saw her and the cubs. Their lips pulled back, showing rows of sharp teeth. They spread out. surrounding the cave entrance. Hana's hand went to her knife. It would be useless against these creatures. She grabbed a burning branch from her small fire and waved it at the closest riftback. The creature flinched away from the flames but did not leave. The cubs huddled behind her. They were too young and too injured to fight. Hana stood between them and the riftbacks, holding the burning branch like a weapon. "Get back!" she shouted. "Go away!" The largest riftback took a step forward. Then another. Hana's heart pounded. This was it. She was going to die. The cubs were going to die. Then the jungle exploded. The mother Vorathil came out of nowhere. She moved so fast that Hana barely saw her. One moment the riftbacks were advancing. The next moment, the mother crashed into them like a living avalanche. The fight was terrible and beautiful. The mother was massive, twice the size of any riftback. Her 6 legs gave her incredible stability. Her claws flashed in the fading light. One riftback went down immediately, its throat torn open. The others tried to fight back, but they were no match. The mother fought with pure rage. These creatures had threatened her cubs. She would destroy them all. 2 more riftbacks fell. The 4th one ran, disappearing into the jungle. The mother chased it for a few meters, then stopped. She turned back toward the cave. Blood covered her fur. Some of it was from the riftbacks, but not all. She had deep cuts along her shoulder and side. She limped as she walked back toward the cave entrance. Hana stood frozen, still holding the burning branch. The mother Vorathil stopped about 5 meters away. They stared at each other. The cubs ran forward, making happy chirping sounds. They surrounded their mother, rubbing against her legs. The mother's fierce expression softened. She lowered her huge head and nuzzled each cub gently. Then she looked at Hana again. Her yellow eyes were intelligent, aware. She took 1 step closer. Hana did not run. Her fear had been replaced by something else. Respect. Understanding. "You are hurt," Hana said quietly. She pointed at the wounds on the mother's shoulder. "Let me help." She set down the branch and slowly reached for her medical kit. The mother watched every movement, but did not attack. Hana took out the antiseptic spray and bandages. She held them up, showing them to the creature. "Like I helped your cubs, please." The mother Vorathil stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she lay down. Her massive body settled onto the ground. Her wounded shoulder turned toward Hana. Hana's hands shook as she approached. She was so close now that she could feel the heat radiating from the creature's body. She could smell the blood and the wild scent of the Vorathil. She sprayed the wounds. The mother flinched but did not move away. Hana worked quickly, cleaning and bandaging the worst of the cuts. The whole time, she kept talking in a soft, steady voice. "There. That should help. You saved us. You saved your babies. And you saved me." When she finished, she stepped back. The mother stood up. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Then, the mother did something that Hana would never forget. The creature lowered her head and touched her nose gently to Hana's chest. Just for a second. A gesture of acknowledgement, of trust. Then she walked to the cave entrance and lay down, blocking it with her massive body, protecting them all. That night, Hana slept with the 3 cubs curled around her. And outside, the mother kept watch, her yellow eyes scanning the darkness for any threat that might come. On the 6th day, Hana finally got the emergency beacon working. She had used parts from her broken communicator and rewired the power system 3 times. When the small green light blinked on, she felt both relief and worry. Relief because someone would come to rescue her. Worry because of what they might do when they saw the Vorathil. The cubs were much healthier now. They ran and played around the cave, their wounds almost completely healed. Spark had figured out how to climb the cave walls. Shadow could mimic several of Hana's words, though the sounds came out strange from its throat. Bright followed her everywhere, like a devoted puppy. The mother, who Hana now thought of as keeper, came and went freely. She no longer hid in the shadows. She would walk into the cave during the day, check on her cubs, and sometimes just sit near Hana while she worked. The massive predator and the small human had reached an understanding that went beyond words. Hana was recording video notes on her datapad when the device picked up an incoming signal. She checked the screen. 2 ships were coming. One was from the research base. That would be the rescue team. But the other ship was different. Bigger. Corporate registry. She accessed the open communication channels and listened. What she heard made her blood run cold. Rescue team to base. We have Dr. Hana's beacon signal. That was Tejo's voice. He ran security at the research base. Hana knew him well. He was a good man. But then another voice came through. Sharp and businesslike. Survey Team 12 to Stellar Dynamics Command. We have confirmed Vorathil activity in target area. Proceeding with specimen acquisition protocol. Authorization. Minji. 7. Omega. Specimen acquisition. They were not coming to rescue her. They were coming to capture the Vorathil. Hana's hands shook as she switched to a different frequency, trying to find more information. She hacked into the corporate channel using her research credentials. What she found made her sick. Stellar Dynamics Corporation had been monitoring this planet for months. They wanted Vorathil specimens for bioweapon research. The company had been waiting for an opportunity, and Hana's crash had given them one. They could claim they were conducting a rescue operation while really hunting for creatures to capture. The messages detailed their equipment. Neural nets that could immobilize large predators. Containment units that could hold creatures up to 5 meters tall. Weapons designed to tranquilize, without killing. They wanted the Vorathil alive. Hana looked at Keeper, who lay near the cave entrance with Bright sleeping against her side. She looked at Spark and Shadow, playing with a round stone they had found. These creatures had saved her life. They had trusted her. Now armed men were coming to capture them, to take them away and use them as weapons. She made a decision. Hana shut down the beacon. The green light went dark. She grabbed her datapad and started moving. If she could get far enough from the cave, she could lead the teams away. Make them think she had moved on from this location. Keeper's head snapped up. The mother Vorathil could sense Hana's distress. She stood and moved to block the cave entrance. I have to go, Hana said urgently. Bad people are coming. They want to hurt you and the cubs. I need to lead them away. Keeper did not move. Her yellow eyes stared at Hana intensely. Hana heard it then, a sound in the distance. Engines. The ships were arriving early. They must have used faster shuttles than she expected. She ran back into the cave and gathered her equipment. She had to hide the evidence of the Vorathil being here. She kicked dirt over the fire pit. She grabbed her medical supplies. But there was no time. She could hear voices now, coming through the jungle. The cubs sensed danger. They pressed close to their mother, making worried sounds. Keeper's lips pulled back, showing teeth like white daggers. Please, Hana whispered. Take the cubs and go. Run. Hide. They have weapons that can hurt you. Keeper made a deep rumbling sound. She lowered her head and pushed against Hana gently, moving her toward the back of the cave. Then the mother moved to the entrance and stood there like a living wall. Footsteps approached. Multiple people. Hana could see lights flickering through the jungle, coming closer. Tejo's voice called out. Dr. Hana? Are you here? We got your beacon signal. Hana started to answer, but then she heard the other voice. A woman. Thermal scanners show multiple heat signatures in that cave formation. 4 large ones. That matches Vorathil's size profile. Director Minji, this is a rescue operation, not a hunting trip. Tejo said. His voice hard. The doctor may be in danger from hostile wildlife. We are simply being prepared. Hana stepped out of the cave before they could come in. She needed to see what was happening. Keeper growled low in warning, but Hana held up her hand. Stay, she whispered. Please stay. She emerged into the clearing. Two groups of people stood there. Teho's team wore the standard research base uniforms. They carried basic weapons for protection. But the other group was different. They wore tactical armor. They carried large rifles. Behind them, Hana could see equipment. Cages on hover platforms. Long poles with loops at the end. Devices that hummed with electrical charge. A woman stepped forward from the corporate group. She was tall, with short black hair and cold eyes. This had to be Director Minji, Dr. Hana. Minji said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "We are glad to find you alive." "We were worried." "I am fine," Hana said. She kept herself between the groups and the cave entrance. "I survived the crash with minor injuries. I just need transport back to base." "Of course," Minji said. "But first, we detected several dangerous creatures near your position. For your safety, we need to secure the area." Teho stepped forward. He looked at Hana carefully. "Are you really okay? You have been out here alone for 6 days." "I was not alone," Hana said quietly. Teho's eyes widened. He understood immediately. "The Vorathil. They did not hurt me. They protected me." Minji's smile grew wider. "Fascinating. The creatures showed non-aggressive behavior? That will be valuable data for our research." "Your research?" Hana said, her voice rising with anger. "You mean your weapons program? I hacked your communications. I know what you are planning. You want to capture them. Our planning. One he said or better. Our planning. You want to capture them." The pretense dropped away. Minji's smile disappeared. "Dr. Hana, you are suffering from trauma and exposure. You are not thinking clearly. Step aside so we can do our job." "No, that was not a request." Minji gestured to her team. "Secure the area. Prepare the acquisition equipment." Teho moved to stand beside Hana. "Director, I cannot allow this. This is supposed to be a rescue operation. You are exceeding your authority. You are a security officer at a research station," Minji said coldly. "I am a director of Stellar Dynamics Corporation, which funds your entire base. You have no authority here." The corporate team moved forward, raising their weapons. Teho's team looked uncertain. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Hana felt movement behind her. Keeper emerged from the cave. The massive Vorathil stepped out into the clearing, her cubs following close behind. Even in daylight, she was terrifying to behold. 4 meters of pure predatory power. Her wounds from the Riftback fight were healing, but the fresh scars made her look even more dangerous. The corporate team immediately aimed their weapons. Red targeting lasers appeared on Keeper's chest. Mon. Perfect, Minji said. An adult female and 3 juveniles. "This is better than we hoped." Keeper roared. It was a sound that shook the trees and made everyone freeze. The cubs ran to Hana, pressing against her legs. Spark was shaking. Shadow made frightened chirping sounds. Even Bright, the brave one, huddled close. "Do not hurt them," Hana said desperately. "Please. They are intelligent. They have feelings. They are a family. They are resources," Minji said. She raised her hand, ready to give the order to fire. Teho grabbed his weapon and pointed it at the corporate team. "Stand down. That is an order." His team, loyal to him, followed his lead. Suddenly, the clearing was full of people pointing weapons at each other. Minji laughed. "You would start a firefight over animals?" "They are not just animals," Hana said. She pulled out her datapad and held it up. "I have 6 days of recordings. Video evidence. The cubs understand tool use. The mother showed strategic thinking. They communicate with each other through sounds and body language. They showed compassion to an injured alien being, me. They meet every criteria for protected sentient species status. That evidence will never leave this planet," Minji said coldly. Teho pulled out his own communicator. Too late. I am transmitting everything to the research base now, and to the Colonial Assembly. This is going to be reviewed by the proper authorities, not decided by a corporate director in the middle of the jungle. Minji's face twisted with rage. You just ended your career. Maybe, Teho said calmly. The standoff continued. Corporate weapons pointed at Keeper and the cubs. Teho's team pointed at the corporate soldiers. Hana stood in the middle with 3 terrified young Vorathil pressed against her. Then Minji made a decision. She pulled out a small weapon from her belt and pointed it directly at Hana. You are the problem, she said. Without you to tell your story, this all goes away. The tranquilizer dart hit Hana in the chest before anyone could react. She felt the drug spreading through her body immediately, making her legs weak. Keeper roared again. She charged forward, a protective mother seeing someone hurt the person who had saved her cubs. Everything exploded into chaos. The corporate team fired their neural nets. Blue energy spread through the air. Teho's team fired stun rounds at the corporate soldiers. The cubs scattered, running for cover. Hana fell to her knees, fighting the tranquilizer. Her vision blurred. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Keeper, tangled in neural nets, but still fighting, still trying to reach her, still trying to protect the human who had become part of her family. Hana woke to the sound of shouting. Her head felt like it was full of mud. Everything was blurry. She tried to move, but her arms would not work right. The tranquilizer was still in her system. Someone grabbed her shoulders. Hana! Wake up! Teho's face came into focus above her. He had a cut on his cheek, and his uniform was torn. Behind him, she could hear fighting, weapons firing, people yelling, and above it all, a roar that made her heart clench with fear. Keeper. Memory flooded back. The corporate team. The ambush. Minji shooting her with the tranquilizer dart. The cubs. Hana gasped. Where are the cubs? Safe for now, Teho said. He pulled her to her feet. Her legs shook, but she managed to stand. They ran into the jungle when the fighting started. The mother is still here. She will not leave while you are in danger. Hana looked around. The clearing had become a war zone. Teho's team had taken cover behind trees and rocks. The corporate soldiers were advancing with their weapons. And in the center of it all was Keeper. The mother Vorathil was magnificent and terrifying. Neural nets hung off her body like broken spiderwebs. She had torn through them with pure strength. 3 corporate soldiers lay unconscious nearby. She had not killed them, just knocked them aside. But her focus was on one person. Director Minji stood behind a portable shield generator. Several soldiers guarded her. She held a large weapon in her hands, something that looked like a rocket launcher. That is a shock cannon, Teho said grimly. It will not kill the Vorathil, but it will hurt her badly enough that they can capture her. No, Hana said. She tried to run forward, but her legs gave out. You are still drugged. You cannot fight. I have to try. Keeper saw Hana moving. The Vorathil made a sound, something between a roar and a whine. She wanted to come to Hana, but the corporate soldiers kept firing neural nets and stun rounds. Each hit slowed her down a little more. Last chance, Minji called out. Surrender the creature and Dr. Hana's research, or I will be forced to use lethal measures. You said you wanted them alive, Teho shouted back. I prefer them alive, but dead specimens still have value. Hana felt rage burn through the drug fog in her mind. She looked around desperately. There had to be something she could do. Her datapad was gone, probably taken by the corporate team. Her medical kit was back at the cave. She had nothing. Then she heard it. A soft chirping sound from the jungle behind her. The cubs, Spark, Shadow, and Bright, emerged from the undergrowth. They were scared, their ears flat against their heads, but they saw their mother in danger, and they came anyway. Just babies, but already so brave. No, Hana whispered. Go back. Hide. But the cubs did not understand. They ran toward their mother. The corporate soldiers saw them. More targets, one of them said, raising his weapon. Something snapped inside Hana. The anger, the fear, the love she had developed for these creatures. It all came together in a burning need to protect them. She stumbled forward, putting herself between the soldiers and the cubs. You want them? You go through me first. Tejo stepped up beside her. Then the rest of his team moved forward too. 8 humans against 20 corporate soldiers. They were badly outnumbered, but they stood firm. You are all insane, Minji said. She raised the shock cannon, pointing it at Keeper. The world seemed to slow down. Hana saw Minji's finger on the trigger. She saw Keeper, tangled in nets and exhausted from fighting, unable to dodge. She saw the cubs running forward, desperate to reach their mother. Then something unexpected happened. More Vorathil emerged from the jungle. Not just 1 or 2. A dozen of them. They came from all sides, surrounding the clearing. Adults, each as large and dangerous as Keeper. They moved silently, like shadows made solid. Everyone froze. The corporate soldiers looked around in panic. Even Minji lowered the shock cannon, her face pale. An enormous Vorathil, even larger than Keeper, stepped forward. Its fur was darker, almost black, with silver marking along its spine. Scars covered its body, marks of many battles. This was clearly the Alpha, the leader of this pack. The Alpha walked directly to Keeper. It made a deep, rumbling sound. Keeper responded with a similar sound. They touched their heads together briefly. Then, the Alpha looked at Hana. Those eyes. Just like Keeper's, but older, wiser. They studied Hana, with an intelligence that was unmistakable. Tejo whispered beside her. They are communicating. Did you know they lived in groups? The research files said they were solitary hunters, Hana whispered back. The files were wrong, about a lot of things. The cubs ran to their mother. Keeper nuzzled them quickly, checking for injuries. Then she did something amazing. She walked to Hana, despite the neural nets still clinging to her body, and gently pushed Hana toward the Alpha with her nose. The Alpha leaned down. Its massive head came close to Hana. So close, she could feel its breath. One snap of those jaws, and she would be dead. She stood perfectly still. The Alpha sniffed her. Then it looked at the cubs, who were pressed against Hana's legs again. It looked at Keeper. Understanding passed through those intelligent eyes. This human had saved Keeper's cubs, had healed them, had protected them. The Alpha made a decision. It turned to face the corporate team and roared. The other Vorathil joined in. The sound was overwhelming. A wall of noise that shook the ground. Fall back! Minji screamed to her soldiers. Fall back now! The corporate team ran. They dropped their equipment and fled toward their shuttle. The Vorathil did not chase them. They just stood there. A line of massive predators making it very clear what would happen if anyone tried to hurt their pack member and her human friend. Minji was the last to retreat. She stared at Hana with pure hatred. This is not over. Stellar Dynamics will not forget this. Neither will the Colonial Assembly, Tejo said. He held up his communicator. I sent everything to them. The illegal weapons. The attempt to capture protected species. The assault on a corporate researcher. You are done, Director. Minji-ran. The clearing fell silent except for the sound of the shuttle taking off in the distance. The Vorathil pack remained, watching. Hana's legs finally gave out completely. She sat down hard on the ground. The cubs immediately surrounded her, chirping and nuzzling her with their heads. Keeper came and lay down beside her, careful not to crush the cubs or Hana. Tejo knelt nearby. Are you okay? I think so, Hana said. She was shaking, but from relief now, not fear. That was close. Too close. Tejo looked at the Vorathil pack with awe. I have been on this planet for 3 years. I have never seen them act like this. They have never helped humans before. We never gave them a reason to, Hana said. She stroked Bright's head. The cub made a purring sound. We just saw them as monsters, as threats. But they are so much more. The alpha approached slowly. It looked at Tejo, sizing him up. Tejo wisely stayed very still. Then the alpha did something remarkable. It lowered its head to Tejo in what looked like a gesture of acknowledgement. Tejo had helped protect Keeper and her cubs. The pack recognized that. I think, Tejo said slowly. We need to completely rethink how we interact with this species. Over the next hour, the pack began to disperse. They had come when Keeper called them, responding to some signal that humans could not hear. Now that the danger was past, they returned to the jungle. But several stayed nearby, watching over the area. Hana worked on removing the neural nets from Keeper. The devices had tangled badly in the Vorathil's fur. As she worked, she talked to Tejo about everything that had happened over the past 6 days. They are intelligent, she said firmly. Not like humans, but intelligence adapted to their world and their needs. They have social structures, family bonds. They communicate. They problem solve. They show compassion. The research files were wrong about them, Tejo said. The research files were based on fear. Hana replied. We studied them from a distance, always seeing them as threats. I lived with them. I saw who they really are. She finished removing the last of the nets. Keeper stood and shook herself. Then she turned and licked Hana's face with a tongue that felt like wet sandpaper. Hana laughed. Despite everything. I think that means, thank you, Tejo said with a slight smile. The cubs played around them, already recovering from the fear of the attack. Shadow tried to mimic Tejo's words, creating a sound that was almost like, thank you, but not quite. Tejo stared in amazement. Did it just try to talk? Shadow has been practicing for days, Hana said proudly. Give them time, and I think they could learn to understand human speech, even if they cannot speak it perfectly. Spark brought Hana a rock and dropped it in her lap. Bright wrestled with one of the torn neural nets, treating it like a toy. Tejo sat down, watching the scene with wonder. What happens now? Now, Hana said. We change everything. The way we study them. The way we interact with them. We prove to the Colonial Assembly, and everyone else, that the Vorathil deserve protection. Respect. We canning that as at a friend. The company will fight this, Tejo warned. Let them try. Hana pulled out a small device from her pocket. It was a backup data storage unit, something she always kept on her person. I have copies of everything, the videos, the documentation, all the proof we need. Keeper lay down beside them, the cubs curling up against her. The alpha, still watching from the edge of the clearing, made a low rumbling sound. Keeper responded. What are they saying? Tejo asked. Hana watched the interaction carefully. I do not know exactly, but I think the alpha is approving. Accepting that humans can be trusted. At least some of us. The sun was setting, painting the jungle in shades of gold and red. In the distance, Hana could hear more Vorathil calls. The pack was communicating, passing information through the jungle. They are telling the others, Hana said quietly, about what happened here today. About the humans who fought to protect them. Tejo smiled. Maybe we just started something bigger than we realize. Maybe we did, Hana agreed. She looked at Keeper and the cubs, then at the alpha standing guard. Maybe we just made first contact with an intelligent species. Real contact. Based on respect and trust, not fear. As night fell, Tejo's team set up a camp. They would stay here tonight and return to base tomorrow. There was much to do. Reports to file. Testimonies to record. A revolution to start in how humanity interacted with this world. But for now, Hana sat with her unlikely family. The 3 cubs slept peacefully, knowing they were safe. Keeper watched over them all, and in the shadows of the jungle, the pack kept guard, protecting the human who had shown them that not all aliens were enemies. Some, it turned out, could be friends. 3 months had passed since that day in the clearing. Hana stood at the window of her new research facility, watching the jungle below. The building was small and designed to blend with the environment. It was nothing like the old research base with its heavy walls and weapons towers. Behind her, several monitors displayed live feeds from cameras placed throughout the jungle. The screens showed Vorathil going about their daily lives, hunting, playing, caring for their young, living as they had for thousands of years before humans arrived. But now humans were watching and learning, not with fear, but with respect. Dr. Hana? A young woman entered the room carrying a datapad. This was Ji-Yun, a linguist who had arrived from Earth 2 weeks ago. The translation program just completed another analysis of the Vorathil communication patterns. You need to see this. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Hana took the pad and looked at the data. Her eyes widened. They are using different sound combinations for different types of prey. That is vocabulary. Actual vocabulary. It gets better, Ji-Yun said excitedly. Watch this video from yesterday. The screen showed Keeper and the Alpha standing together. They were making sounds back and forth, their body language changing with each vocalization. The translation program analyzed the patterns. They are not just communicating about immediate needs, Ji-Yun explained. They are discussing something that happened in the past. The program identifies temporal markers in their sounds. They are telling stories. Hana felt tears in her eyes. Every day brought new discoveries. Every day proved more clearly that the Vorathil were not simple beasts. They were a species with culture, with language, with intelligence that humans had been too afraid to recognize. A soft, chirping sound came from the corner of the room. Spark, Shadow, and Bright were there, now half-grown. They spent most of their time with Keeper in the jungle, but they visited Hana every day. The bond formed during those first days in the cave had never broken. Spark walked over and pressed his head against Hana's leg. She scratched behind his ears, still amazed that she could touch a Vorathil so casually. "How are your babies today?" she asked. Shadow made a sound that the translation program analyzed. The screen showed, "Good. Hunt. Success. You caught something on your own?" Hana smiled. "I am proud of you." Bright brought her a small device in his mouth. It was one of the motion sensors that had fallen off a camera rig. He had learned to bring her things that needed fixing. Hana took it and patted his head. "Thank you, Bright. Very helpful." The door opened and Taeho entered. He wore a new uniform now. After the incident with Stellar Dynamics, he had been promoted to Director of Planetary Security. His first action had been to ban all corporate hunting operations on Viridian 7. "The Colonial Assembly just sent their decision," he said. He looked pleased. "It is official. Viridian 7 is now a protected world. No mining, no hunting, no exploitation. Only scientific research under strict protocols." Hana felt relief wash over her. She had testified before the assembly through video link, showing them everything she had documented. The videos of Keeper protecting her, the cubs learning and playing, the pack coming together to defend one of their own. The evidence had been overwhelming. The Vorathil were intelligent, social, and capable of complex emotions. They met every requirement for protected species status. "What about Stellar Dynamics?" Hana asked. "What happened to Director Minji?" "She was fired and faces criminal charges," Taeho said with satisfaction. "Assault, attempted kidnapping of protected specimens, illegal weapons deployment. She will be in prison for a long time. The company is paying a huge fine and has been banned from operations in this entire sector." "Good," Hana said simply. A sound came from outside. The deep roar of a Vorathil. But this was not a threat call. It was a greeting. Hana walked out onto the balcony. Keeper stood below, the Alpha beside her. They came by every evening now. More than just checking on the cubs, Hana believed. They seemed to enjoy the interaction, the connection with humans who treated them as equals. "Hello, Keeper," Hana called down. "Hello, Elder." She had started calling the alpha Elder because it seemed fitting. The creature was clearly old and wise, the leader who made decisions for the whole pack. Elder looked up at her and made a rumbling sound. The translation program analyzed it. "Safe, pack, together." Hana smiled. The program was getting better at interpreting their language, but some meanings went beyond simple words. This phrase meant something like, "Our pack is safe together." Or perhaps, "We are all one pack now." The Vorthil had accepted certain humans into their group. Over the next weeks, more researchers arrived. Each one was carefully screened. They had to understand that they were guests in the Vorthil's home. They had to respect the creatures and their way of life. Anyone who could not accept those terms was sent away. Dae-hyun, a representative from the Colonial Assembly, came to oversee the new protocols. He was an older man who had spent his career fighting for the rights of non-human species across the galaxy. "This is historic," he told Hana during his visit. "The Vorthil are the first species to receive protection status based on observed intelligence rather than technology. You have changed how humanity evaluates other species." "I just showed people what was already there," Hana said. "The Vorthil did not change. Our understanding did." Dae-hyun walked with her through the facility. He watched the monitors, showing the Vorthil in their natural habitat. He saw the cubs playing with human-made toys that Hana had designed. He witnessed Elder and Keeper interacting with researchers, allowing themselves to be studied without fear. "How many of them are there?" Dae-hyun asked. "We have identified 7 packs so far," Hana explained. "About 20 to 30 individuals per pack. That means roughly 200 Vorthil on this continent alone. There may be more on other continents. We are still surveying. And they all know about humans now. Elder's pack has shared information with the others. The Vorthil have their own communication network across the jungle. They all know that some humans can be trusted." Dae-hyun smiled. "You built a bridge between species, Dr. Hana. That is the best kind of science." Dae-hyun, but not everything was easy. There were still challenges. Some human colonists were angry about the new restrictions. They had wanted to exploit the planet's resources. They saw the Vorthil as obstacles, not as intelligent beings deserving respect. One day, a group of protesters gathered outside the research facility. They carried signs demanding that the protection status be revoked. They shouted that humans should come first, that animals should not have rights. Hana went out to speak with them. Taeho and his security team came too, just in case things became violent. "I understand your frustration," Hana said to the crowd. "But please understand what we have learned. The Vorthil are not animals. They are people, just different from us. They are predators that have killed humans," someone shouted. "Yes," Hana admitted. "Because we invaded their territory. We shot at them. We tried to capture them. They defended themselves and their families. What would you do if someone threatened your children?" The crowd grew quieter. "I lived with them," Hana continued. "They saved my life. They fed me. They protected me. When I was in danger, they came to help, even though they did not have to. They showed compassion to an alien being. To me. Can we not show the same compassion to them?" A woman in the crowd called out. "But what about the economy? We need the resources from this planet." "There are thousands of worlds in human space," Taeho said. "Most of them are empty. We do not need this one world so badly that we should destroy an intelligent species for it." The crowd dispersed eventually. Some left angry, but others looked thoughtful. Change was hard. Hana knew. But it was necessary. As months turned into a year, the research facility grew. More scientists came to study the Vorthil. Ji-yeon made breakthroughs in understanding their language. A team of ecologists mapped their territory and hunting patterns. Psychologists studied their social structures and found they were remarkably complex. The Vorathil, for their part, seemed curious about humans too. Some individuals visited the facility regularly. They watched the researchers work. They allowed themselves to be examined, though always on their own terms. If a Vorathil wanted to leave, no one stopped them. Elder became a regular presence. The old Vorathil would sit for hours in the observation area, watching humans through the glass. Sometimes researchers would sit on the other side, and they would simply observe each other. One day, Jian came running with exciting news. "I think I did it. I think I can communicate with them." She had developed an interface that could translate human speech into Vorathil vocalizations, and vice versa. It was crude and made mistakes, but it worked. They tested it with Elder. Hana held the device and spoke into it. "Can you understand me?" Code. Codeifor. Code. Codeifor. 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 The device made a series of growls and rumbles. Elder's ears perked up. He made a sound back. The device translated, "Hear. Understand. Partial. 2. Tears ran down Hana's face. "We are talking to them. We are actually talking to them." Over the next weeks, the translation improved. The conversations were simple at first. Greetings. Questions about food and weather. But slowly, they went deeper. One evening, Hana asked Elder through the device, "What do you think of humans?" And Elder was quiet for a long time. Then he made a complex series of sounds. The translation came through: strange, weak bodies, strong spirits, some good, some bad, like Vorathil, not all same. "We are not so different, are we?" Hana said softly. "Not different, same want. Protect young. Keep pack safe. Live in peace." The breakthrough was announced across human space. The news spread that humanity had achieved two-way communication with an alien intelligence. Scientists from across the galaxy wanted to come to Viridian 7 to witness it themselves. But Hana was careful. Too many visitors would disturb the Vorathil. The planet remained protected. Only small numbers of researchers were allowed at any time. On the anniversary of her crash, Hana returned to the cave where it had all begun. The site was undisturbed. She had requested that it remain that way. A memorial to where everything changed. Keeper came with her, the cubs following behind. They were fully grown now, as large as their mother. But they still followed Hana like she was part of their pack. "Do you remember?" Hana asked Keeper. "That first night? I was so scared." Keeper nuzzled her gently. "I thought you would kill me," Hana continued. "But you saw that I was trying to help. You understood." She sat at the cave entrance, looking out at the jungle. Keeper lay beside her. The cubs settled around them. It was peaceful. Hana thought about everything that had happened. The crash. The fear. The bond that formed between species that should have been enemies. The fight to protect that bond. The change that rippled out across human space because of it. One person. One decision to help rather than run. That was all it took. "You know what the best part is?" Hana said to Keeper. "Other worlds are following our example. 3 other planets, with intelligent predator species, have received protection status in the past 6 months. Humanity is learning. We are getting better." Keeper made a contented rumbling sound. Her cubs dozed in the afternoon sun. Everything was as it should be. As Hana sat there, she heard footsteps. Teho climbed up to the cave, slightly out of breath. "You need to see this," he said, holding out a communication device. The screen showed news from across the galaxy. The Colonial Assembly had passed the Sentient Species Protection Act, named after Hana's work on Viridian 7. It established new protocols for how humanity approached potentially intelligent alien life. "They are calling it the Hana Protocols," Teho said with a smile. Hana shook her head. "It should be called the Keeper Protocols. She is the one who took the risk. She trusted me first. The galaxy needs a human name, Tejo said. But I understand what you mean. That evening, the entire pack gathered near the research facility. All 7 packs. Nearly 200 Vorathil. It was unprecedented. They had never all come together like this before. Elder stood at the front. Through the translation device, he spoke. Human Hana, changed world, showed trust, we give trust. 2 species. Walk together, protect together. The other Vorathil roared in agreement. The sound shook the building. Hana stood on the balcony, looking out at the assembled creatures. These magnificent, intelligent, beautiful beings, who had been so misunderstood, who had been seen as monsters when they were simply trying to survive. We walk together, she said through the translator. We protect together. Human and Vorathil. Friends. Family. Another roar of agreement. As the sun set on Viridian 7, Hana felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for this world, but for all worlds. For all the species humanity would meet as they spread across the stars. They could choose fear and violence, or they could choose understanding and compassion. One person had made that choice in a cave, treating wounded cubs instead of running. And that choice had changed everything. Keeper climbed up to the balcony, something she rarely did. She stood beside Hana, looking out at her pack. Spark, Shadow, and Bright joined them. Ji-Yan came out with the translator. Keeper wants to say something. The massive Vorathil made a long series of sounds. Everyone waited quietly for the translation. It came through slowly. Before human, pack alone. Afraid of sky creatures. After human, pack has friends. Not alone. Cub safe. World better. Thank you. Hana wrapped her arms around Keeper's massive neck, as much as she could reach. Thank you too. You saved me first. You and your babies. You showed me what really matters. As darkness fell, the Vorathil dispersed back to their territories. But they were not afraid anymore. The humans were not invaders to fear. They were neighbors, friends. And in the research facility, scientists continued their work, learning the language, understanding the culture, building bridges between species that would last for generations to come. Hana sat at her desk late that night, writing her final report on the first year of the Vorathil Research Initiative. She ended it with a simple statement. In the end, the most human thing we can do is not to conquer or exploit. It is to understand, to empathize, to see the intelligence and beauty in beings that are different from us. The Vorathil taught me that. I hope humanity remembers the lesson. She saved the file and looked out the window. In the distance, she could see the glow of Vorathil markings moving through the jungle. The pack was hunting, living, thriving, and humanity was learning to be better neighbors, better friends. That, Hana thought, was worth every moment of fear in that cave, worth every struggle that came after. Because in the shadows of that first night, when predator cubs slept beside her bed and their mother watched from the darkness, something changed. Not just for one human or one pack of Vorathil, but for every species that would meet across the stars, learning that the scariest moment, choosing trust over fear, was the moment that mattered most.